Hello everyone, welcome back. We will now see the Charter Act of 1833. So this is after the Pitt's India Act of 1784. Now we will see the Charter Act of 1833. So this act was in fact a final step towards centralization in British India, because by now we have a more centralized administration in place. A few examples of how the administration becomes centralized will be clear when you see the features of the act. The first feature was that it made the governor of Bengal, the governor general of Bengal as the governor general of India, and vested him all the civil and military powers. Now, this is why I said when we see the features of the act, we will come to know why the Charter Act of 1833 was a step towards centralization. Now, earlier in the Regulating Act of 1773, we saw that the Governor of Bengal was made Governor General of Bengal, and all the presidencies, Bombay and Madras presidencies were made under him, right? So Governor of Bengal becomes Governor General of Bengal. You see the gradual centralizing tendency. Now the Governor General of Bengal becomes Governor General of India, right? That's why I said it's more centralizing in nature. What does centralizing mean? Centralizing means, power becomes concentrated at one place or one person or one authority. So it's just opposite of decentralization. In decentralization, you are distributing power to the lower levels, but in centralization, it's just the opposite. Power gets accumulated in one authority or one person or one seat of power. So here we see a centralizing tendency, right? Because Governor General of Bengal now becomes Governor General for the whole of India. And note that this Governor General of India now has all civil and military powers. So, thus, the Act created for the first time a government of India having authority over the entire territorial area possessed by the British, right? So, we saw that Warren Hastings was the first Governor General of Bengal, but Lord William Bentinck becomes the first Governor General of India. Remember these two names because it might come as a one-word question for your exam. Okay, now the second feature is that when we created Governor General of India, when we replaced Governor General of Bengal with Governor General of India, the governors of Bombay and Madras presidencies were completely deprived of their legislative powers. Now, this term legislative might be new to a few of you at least. Uh, legislative means something related to law making. Our parliament is a legislative body. Why? Because that is the place where we make laws, right? So legislation happens in the parliament, law making happens in the parliament. So when you see the term legislative, equate it with law making. Now executive, when you see what is legislative, you also have to see what is executive. Executive means executing the laws passed by the legislative, right? So legislative is related with lawmaking. The parliament will make the laws. In today's context, I am speaking, okay, not in the British context. So in today's context, the parliament is a legislative body. And what is the executive body? Executive body is the bureaucracy, right? Bureaucracy, because bureaucracy executes or puts into practice these laws. Distinguish between the term executive and legislative. Okay, now coming back to our point of discussion, the governors of Bombay and Madras were now deprived of their legislative or the law making powers. So these powers were now given to the Governor General of India. So Governor General of, that's why I told this is an example of a centralizing tendency, because you are taking away the legislative powers from Bombay and Madras governors and giving it to the Governor General of India, right? So that is the reason why I said this act is a centralizing act. Okay, now the next feature is that it ended the activities of East India Company as a commercial body, right? Remember in the previous act, Pitt's India Act, we saw that East India Company's commercial and political functions were clearly distinguished or demarcated. But with this regulating act, we see that the commercial functions of the East India Company now comes to a full stop, right? Which means that the company now becomes a purely administrative body. Not here that this company, which came as a purely private trading company, now becomes a purely administrative body, right, ending all its commercial activities. So by now, the company's grip over Indian land was, very firm. And also see that the act provided that the company's territories in India will be held in trust for His Majesty, his heirs and successors. It simply means that the company's possessions in India will now be held by the company on behalf of the crown, right? You see slowly the British government entering into play. Okay, now another feature is it attempted to introduce a system of open competition for selection of civil servants and stated that the Indians should not be debarred from holding any place, office, employment under the company. See, there was a lot of rush back in London to be a civil servant. It simply means that servant of the company, right? Why? Because, as I told you in one of the previous videos, becoming a civil servant or becoming an employee of the company meant that you come to India, serve the company, and earn a lot of wealth. You amass wealth when you come to India. So there was a lot of rush in London to get into the, to become a civil servant. So there was no open competition. Uh, it was basically based on recommendations and influence and all. But the Charter Act of 1833 attempted to introduce a system of open competition for the selection of civil servants. It only says it attempted to introduce, okay, not. Okay, see. However, this provision was negated after opposition from the Court of Directors. So, Court of Directors opposed to this provision, and later on, it was, the provision never came into action. So, thank you.